I hate losing. It's gonna hurt. It's not gonna be easy. You're gonna get knocked down, eliminated, humiliated. MJ went through that. LeBron went through that. All those things is part of being great.
You cannot keep me down.
The Greek Freak is a Greek NBA champion.
I could go to a super team, but this is the hard way to do it, and we did it. We did it.
Oh, we love that. Welcome to Monday morning. What better way to start First Take on a Monday than with a fresh face? Christine Williamson here alongside Dominique Foxworth. Nick, this is the first time we got to work together.
I know. I've been looking forward to this moment since ESPYs. We hung out a little bit at ESPYs, and now we get to have some fun at Perk's expense.
Nick got me pizza, so I know I like him. Perk, holding it down in Houston. What's good, Perk? We work together all the time. What's happening, Perk? You good?
What's happening? What's going on?
I mean, you never got me pizza, but I still like you. We got a lot to get to. Free agency begins tonight, but we start with guys that are not free agents. Giannis Antetokounmpo is in his hometown of Athens, Greece, and he has taken the Larry O'Brien Trophy with him to celebrate and make his rounds. Now, Giannis was asked while there how he would feel if he was now considered the face of the NBA, and this is what he had to say. I don't care about being the face of the NBA. KD or Harden can be. I want to be with my kids and my family. I want to win and enjoy the game. I want to be Giannis, the hard worker. Now, Perk, you tweeted a couple of days ago and you asked a very casual question. If both KD and Giannis retired right now, whose legacy would you argue is greater? So we've got to start there. And we're going to start with Unique because Perk has a take, but you first.
No
Who
problem.
has the greatest legacy so far? Is it KD or is it Giannis?
First of all, Perk, this is masterful production.
Hold on, time out. Christine, you said a very casual question.
I mean, it was a loaded question. It's a loaded question. I mean, I'm being a little sarcastic.
I was about to appreciate the question because that is an incredible question. You didn't answer how you felt about it, but the question itself is an outstanding question. Because when I first thought about it, I was like, this is a stupid question. Obviously, it's KD. Then I gave it some thought, and I was like, all right, I see the argument for Giannis, but then I gave it some more thought, and I came back to my original thought. It's obviously KD. Like anyone who would say it's Giannis, I understand an argument for Giannis, but you're being a prisoner of the moment. Like KD has been, if not the best or the most talented, been the second best player in the league for much of his career after LeBron. So I think that his legacy is going to be great. And we normally measure legacies by championships, right? That's what we do. All the time, we count the rings. KD got more. He got 2 championships and 2 MVPs. He's got 4 scoring titles. The only people with more scoring titles than him are a guy named Michael and a guy named Wilt. And if those are the only people who have scored more than you or had 1 more scoring titles than you, you're in a great position. He's been dominant. And it's not only that he's won more championships and that he's won more championship MVPs. It's also that he's had big moments after moments in these playoffs just this past season. And also, we can go back to when y'all was teammates back in 11 and 12. He was cooking. Like, he just had so many memorable moments. We don't have to go back that far. We can just go back to how he was single-handedly pretty much going at the Bucks. And if it weren't for a quarter of an inch, he might be winning a championship right now. And I'm pretty sure your tune would be a lot different. So I respect Giannis. He's done a lot. He's grown a great deal since he's been in the league, and he's become one of the preeminent stars. But let's not shortchange KD just because of this prisoner of the moment type recency bias that we're falling into right now.
Well, first of all, Nick, let me say this. Let me start off. Before I address you, let me say this. Kevin Durant, in my eyes, is the best scorer to ever touch the damn basketball. Let me get that out the way. But when the question was asked, that I asked and put on my social media, it was about legacy. It wasn't about who was the better basketball player. I believe KD is the better basketball player, but when you talk about a legacy, you talk about the story of that individual. So it's almost like writing a book on this individual, and you're going in chapters about their career. When you look at Giannis and what he just accomplished, forget that he won MVP and Defensive Player of the Year last year, along with winning the NBA championship and winning the Finals MVP, joining the company of Michael Jordan and Hakeem Olajuwon, the only 3 players to ever do it. Forget the fact that he was drafted number 15, I believe it was, to the Milwaukee Bucks, who he came in a year later that a franchise was built around Jabari Parker, who was the number 2 pick for the Milwaukee Bucks a year before that. Forget that Giannis wasn't playing his first couple years that many minutes. He was coming off the bench. Forget that no one in the world knew that Giannis would be this great of a player. Forget all that. We're talking about the story, right? Giannis, just think, 2 years ago against the Toronto Raptors, he was down 0-2 in the series. He lost that series. He had an opportunity to leave and go join somewhere else to try to win the championship. No, he stuck through it. He worked hard. He delivered a championship right to the Milwaukee Bucks this season. They haven't done that in 50 years. Hold on, Dominique. They haven't done it in 50 years since Kareem and Oscar Robertson was there. Okay? This is what I'm about to, this is what I'm about to dive into. When you look at legacies and you look at stories, I'm going to give you a couple examples of a few. You look at Kobe Bryant, right? You look at the 5 championships, right, that he won with the Los Angeles Lakers. He only won 1 MVP, 1 regular season MVP. In that run with Shaq, where they three-peated, he didn't win a finals MVP. You know when Kobe Bryant, when his legacy took off, is when Shaq left and he was able to win 2 without Shaq. He went through some rough patches with the Los Angeles Lakers and he won 2 along with 2 finals MVPs. He stayed with the organization. He battled. He went through the trenches. Look, you go to LeBron James. He left Cleveland. Went down to South Beach, won 2 championships. Could have went anywhere, could have stayed down there, probably won 3 more. But in his mind, he was writing his book, and he knew a chapter was still missing. A chapter was still open. He wanted to go back to Cleveland. Why? Because LeBron James strived for greatness. 1, he wanted to deliver a championship for the city of Cleveland and the state of Ohio where he's from. But 2, in the back of his mind, he knew he had unfinished business and that would be held against him far as his legacy. Now, I'm not knocking KD 2 championships, but we will always have an asterisk. People will always talk about KD blowing the 3-1 lead in Oklahoma and going join the Golden State Warriors, who beat them, a 73-9 team. There will always be a chapter in this book. So when I talk about legacies, I'm not talking about the better basketball player. Right. I'm talking about their story, their journey to get where they at.
I think you did a great job defining legacy, because you're right. I think there's no argument about who's the better basketball player. We all understand that KD is a better basketball player. And you said he's the greatest scorer that's ever touched the ball. That's a pretty damn good legacy to start with, even without the championships that he's won, or the scoring titles, or the finals MVPs, or the league MVP. Like, even without all the all NBA teams, even without all that, just being the greatest scorer to ever touch the ball is a hell of a place to start for a man's legacy. But this is where you lose me. You ascribe so much value to staying in the city that drafted you. And I know a lot of people do. They're wrong, and you're wrong. Like, just because you stayed and won in Milwaukee does not make your championship any more valuable to me. And I understand, you're right. The legacy is about the story that we tell. And Giannis has an outstanding story. It's incredibly impressive. I love it. He's going to have a great legacy. He may go on to win more and more championships. And the story of him coming from Greece all the way to America, a Nigerian born individual, to do all of that is a great, great story. From selling CDs on the sidewalk to winning in the finals and blocking key shots. That is a beautiful story. But I don't have any problem with teams having to build to win a championship. Like, that's what we're talking about, is how it's not like Giannis did this without them bringing in other players. Like, they had to bring in other players for them to build around. Moves had to be made. Right? So KD, he made the moves. Nothing's wrong with that. You brought up Shaq earlier. I'm not going to diminish Shaq because he didn't win in Orlando. I don't care about that. Shaq was great. Kevin Garnett, not just diminishing him because he couldn't win In Minnesota, he's still pretty great. And I'm not diminishing LeBron because he had to go to 3 different places to win a championship. Like that to me is your only argument against KD is that he had to leave, right?
No. But that's a huge argument. And I'm not downplaying or diminishing no one's championship because winning a championship is hard as hell. I'm not downplaying that. All I'm telling you is that it sings, it's a different tune to the song when you stay at a franchise and battle through the trenches of a franchise that you built, that you helped build from the ground up. The Milwaukee Bucks, before Giannis got there, they were irrelevant. They were irrelevant before Giannis took this franchise into his hands. And all I'm saying to you is, Dominique, go ask LeBron James. Whenever you get a chance to ask LeBron James, ask him out of all 4 of his championships, which one meant the most to him? The one that he won in Cleveland. You know why? Because it was unfinished business. He went back to Cleveland with him and the owner, and Dan Gilbert didn't say a word to him. You remember when he left, Dan Gilbert wrote a book about him or whatever it was, called The Man of Benedict Arnold, but he went back because he knew it was part of his legacy. It was part of his legacy. That's why he knew that's what I'm trying to.
I feel you. I agree with so much. I agree with so much of what you are saying. But this is where you lose me. Is that doesn't have any value to me? Like he shouldn't have gone back to Dan Gilbert. I was not excited that he won Dan Gilbert a championship. Like I do not have the same affection for these franchises and organizations that you do. Like I am happy that LeBron did what made him happy, and I can call LeBron if you want. Not that I got his phone number, but if you're saying call him and ask him, I can ask him. I don't care what he says. I don't care if he tells me that the Cleveland championship meant more to him. It don't mean more to me. His legacy to me is not that he went back and won one for Cleveland. He won one for Dan Gilbert. Like that don't make me happy. I don't care about Dan Gilbert. And frankly, I don't think that the fans in Cleveland deserve LeBron to come back in the first place after how many of them acted. So I'm not celebrating that. I'm celebrating the guys who win championships and the guys who have, to me, impeccable resumes, and both of these guys do. Giannis has one too, but my only point, let me finish. Give me 3 more seconds. 3 more seconds. My only point is that Giannis won a championship with a team that was built around him. KD did the same thing. Those teams, as soon as he got there, they became built around him in Golden State. He won 2 of them. So his legacy is good with me because I do not value staying at home the same way you do. Like these franchises, they don't care nothing about these players. Dominique, that don't give you no credit to me.
Dominique, listen. I know going into the studio, we have to show our vaccination card or we have to get COVID tested. But I wonder if they giving drug tests out because you are tripping right now. You're talking about the Golden State Warriors. You're talking about the Golden State Warriors built their team around Kevin Durant. The Golden State Warriors had already won. They won 7. They was a 73-9 team before Kevin Durant. How did they build the team around?
Those teams were not built around KD before he got there. But when he got there, the way that they played in the playoffs, go rewatch either of those finals that they won, the series. Watch what they did. It was about Kevin Durant. It was about getting the ball to Kevin Durant. It was about Kevin Durant's defensive flexibility. That's why they won those championships when he was there, a lot like Giannis. They won the championships because it's about Giannis being a unique offensive player and his ability on defense. The same thing happened in Golden State. I know that we want to pretend like it was, I'll accept that it's always Steph's team as far as the fans are concerned, but as far as schematics on the floor, watching the games, they were unique and they were special.
It is.
Perk, we'll talk more Giannis very soon because we do have to talk about who's the face of the league and that quote that he said that we mentioned earlier. But the Bucks are at the top of the East. The Nets not too far behind. Let's talk about another team in the East. NBA free agency begins tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern, and the Miami Heat are positioning themselves to become front runners to land Kyle Lowry in a sign-and-trade agreement once discussions begin, according to Woj. If Lowry takes his talents to South Beach, Perk, we'll start with you on this one. Will the Heat be a threat in the East?
Yeah, absolutely. You talking about adding Kyle Lowry, a guy who's one of the best floor generals in the game today, the ultimate leader. a guy that doesn't rely on his athleticism to get it done, one of the ultimate competitors, and you put him in that Miami Heat culture along with one of the best coaches in the game today in Eric Spoelstra with Jimmy Butler and Bam, and I'm not going to say his last name because I don't feel like he and Christine and Dominique laughed today, but I'm going to give y'all a laugh. Bam out of the bayou, okay?
Nailed
you put
it.
him in there with Bam and that Heat culture, he fits. It's a perfect marriage, okay? Kyle Lowry is a guy that is not going to let up. He's a guy that's going to keep coming. That's what Jimmy Butler is accustomed to. That's what Eric Spoelstra and his Heat culture loves and they embrace. If the Miami Heat could get Kyle Lowry, of course there'll be a threat in the Eastern Conference. Now, would I pick them? Probably not, but there'd definitely be a threat.
I guess you and I can define threats differently because unless something is going to happen to the Nets or something is going to happen to the Bucks, and frankly, I feel like the 76ers are the same place. Like, they don't become a threat like that. They're going to make the playoffs again. They might win a round, maybe, but they're not going to be in the finals, in the conference finals. They're not a real threat adding Kyle Lowry. Like, I understand Spo's a great coach, and Duncan Robinson, maybe Tyler Hero will return to what we saw the player he was in the bubble, and Bam Adebayo, you're right. He's an outstanding player, but let's look around that conference. They are not a real threat adding Kyle Lowry, and I appreciate what you said about him never having relied on his athleticism, so maybe aging, the fact that he's 35 doesn't matter as much, and maybe he can go down there to Heat culture. He already, frankly, embodies the Heat culture, so I think all of that makes sense. They become a better team. He fits down there. That's all great, but they don't become better than the Bucks. They don't become better than the Nets. So unless we're going to have a catastrophic year like we had this year with injuries or something, they are not coming out of there where people are healthy, and if everybody's healthy and at top strength, they're not getting past either of those two teams.
Dominic, we do realize that this Miami Heat team went to the finals last year, right?
Yeah,
2 years ago.
I remember.
They represented the Eastern Conference. Okay, and so no disrespect to Goran Dragic and no disrespect to Kendrick Nunn, but Kyle Lowry is a serious upgrade from those two players. And one of the most important positions in the NBA is the point guard position. Who's going to be the leader to be the floor general? It's so many times that we have watched Jimmy Butler and Bam have to run the point forward, or Jimmy Butler have to slide to the point where he have to orchestrate the offense instead of worry about getting buckets. That wears him down. Now you add Kyle Lowry, a guy where Eric Spoelstra don't have to call sets every time down. A guy that's going to make sure he put Jimmy Butler in position to be successful, to put the ball in the basket. A guy that's going to get Bam easy, good looks because of the way that he attacks and put pressure on the defense. Again, I'm not picking the Heat to come out the East,
right,
but let's not sit up here and disrespect them and say that they're not going to be a threat.
Yeah, I'm not looking to disrespect them, but they're not going to be a threat to come out of the East. So I think we agree on that. You phrasing it differently, but you don't think they're going to actually beat either of those teams. And I appreciate that they went to the finals in the bubble, but I think that season was different. That season was about mental toughness, and that is a very mentally tough team led by Jimmy Butler. They got through that season because of mental toughness. Every other season in the NBA is mostly about talent, and frankly, they don't have the talent. Honestly, like adding Kyle Lowry is a talent upgrade. You're right about Dragic and Kendrick Nunn. They are not the player that Kyle Lowry is, but they still do not compare to the talent that you're going to see in New York with the Nets, or in Brooklyn with the Nets, or in Milwaukee with the Bucks. So unless we're going to go back to the bubble, which the way y'all people is acting, maybe we will end up in the bubble next year, then I'll pick the Heat to go to the finals potentially, because that season will be different. It'll again be about a mentally tough team, which the Heat are. But if that doesn't happen, it's going to be about talent, and they don't have the talent, even if you add Lowry to jump past the Bucks.
Dominique, do you know you have to being mentally tough in any atmosphere, whether it's in a bubble or not? You have to be mentally tough to win a championship.
Agreed.
Giannis had to be mentally. Okay, then. So that's not even an argument. Don't move the goalpost.
I'm not
You
moving
have
the
to
goalpost.
be mentally tough.
I'm saying that
yes,
there is
because you talk. Listen.
Go ahead.
I'm trying to tell you. If you look at Giannis and what he did against the Phoenix Suns, being down 0-2 the start of the series and winning 4 straight and dropping a 50-piece to close them out, your mental has to be different. You have to be mentally tough. You have to be mentally tough and locked in and focused to go up to the free throw line and to keep attacking the basket, knowing that they're going to foul you and put you on the free throw line and go 17 from 19 from the free throw line. That's mental toughness.
Agreed. I'm not saying that, so we don't disagree on that. I'm just saying that different things matter at different times. Like, they matter more. In that particular season, that was the only season where I felt like mental toughness was more important than anything else. I'm not saying you don't have to be mentally tough, but in the NBA, what it comes down to oftentimes in the playoffs is who has the most talent. The most talented team normally wins in the NBA playoffs. In football playoffs, is oftentimes there's a different ranking of that. And there's a lot of times it's health. And it's a lot of luck because it's a single game playoff. It's a lot more coaching than in basketball. And then also talent matters. So I'm saying that all those things matter, but depending on the circumstances, different things matter more. The Heat went to the finals in that bubble year because mental toughness was at a premium that year. And this is quite possibly one of the most tough teams mentally in the league. I'm saying that this coming season, it's not going to matter nearly as much. It's going to go back to normal and where talent kind of prevails, and that's what's going to happen. They still don't have the talent to get them past it. The mental toughness is going to get them to the playoffs. It may get them to a Game 7 in round 2, but that's not going to be enough to get them past the Nets. Like, it's just not. I don't care how tough their brains are. They're not going to be able to outscore them 3 boys in Brooklyn.
Neek, really quick question.
Okay, and I'm not saying that they're not. Go ahead.
I was going to say, do you think that the Heat need one more piece and then they're actually contenders in the East?
I think that's it, honestly. Like, I think if they add one more piece, I'm not sure if that piece is out there, honestly. Like, this year's free agency class is not one with a big home run hitter in it necessarily, unless Kawhi decides to do something that we'll all be surprised by. Like, I think Kyle Lowry is probably the guy who's the best fit for them out there, but they're going to have to find somebody else, make another move throughout the course of the upcoming season in order to be a real threat to Milwaukee or Brooklyn.
All right, so I'm a fair weather Heat fan, so I'll take Kyle Lowry all day. Still to come on First Take, Kawhi opts out of his deal. All signs point to him.
Because this is the most fun you're going to have in basketball. I worked hard to get to this point. Every game, I'm in confident.
My game is running strong. Came to prove I'm wrong. I've been in the trenches and won't be that way for long. It go like...
First Take back with you. Clippers forward Kawhi Leonard has declined his $36 million player option to become a free agent. That was confirmed to Woj on Sunday. Leonard is expected to negotiate a new deal to remain with the Clips. He can potentially sign a 4-year, $176.2 million deal, or he could do a 1-and-1 and become a free agent in 2022 when he could sign a 5-year deal worth $235 million. Perk, still here with us. Perk, I'm going to start with you. Kawhi just had surgery on his ACL last month. He has not yet helped the Clips to an NBA Finals series. Should the Clippers even want to sign Kawhi long-term?
Yes. This shouldn't even be a question. They absolutely should. Just think about it. Look at what they done and look at what they gave up to just even when Kawhi got there to even embrace and help Kawhi get to that point of going to the Clippers, trading for Paul George, giving up everything in the world, including draft picks and everything. I mean, their back was against the wall. And when you look at what the Clippers, how they have catered to Kawhi Leonard, and Kawhi Leonard, have delivered when healthy, he has delivered in great fashion. Look, I believe that the Clippers should want Kawhi Leonard back long term. Listen, at the end of the day, it's a ACL tear, and I get it. It's not an injury that we just could overlook and downplay. It is something that's going to have him sidelined for months or possibly the whole entire year. But if you're the Clippers and you look at the way that Paul George has found his confidence, especially throughout this postseason, and the way that he dominated when Kawhi went out, and Kawhi is a guy that's the ultimate professional when it comes down to working on his game, and when he get between those lines, he's going to deliver. When he comes back, he still is going to have 3 or 4 years left of great basketball. So if I'm the Clippers, I would commit to him long term, because him and PG is a duo to be a force to be reckoned with for as a dynamic duo in this league.
Yeah, I mean, they already made this decision when they traded for Paul George. Like, you are in on this. You sent your draft picks away. You sent any young, like, potential talent that you could build around away. Like, this decision has been made for them a while ago. So, yes, they should want to stick with Kawhi long term. In this offseason, or excuse me, this playoffs, the postseason that we just passed, we saw Paul George kind of rekindle some of this playoff piece stuff that he might have had back when he was with the Pacers that we hadn't seen in a while. So we saw that. We also saw Kawhi be fantastic in that Dallas series. When he was healthy, he would just take over games. So yes, you want to bring him back because that's what you're hoping for. But I don't know that it's as obvious as we all seem to think it is, because Kawhi in the Clippers are in an interesting situation where Kawhi is not always that communicative with that team, and it doesn't work out necessarily. You remember when we were in the playoffs and we were like, is he going to play? Is he not going to play? Like, the Clippers didn't even know what they were going to do with him. But the problem with this is, if you want to win a championship, you're going to have to win a championship in LA in order to get any sort of like stake in that city as far as being a competitive team. If you want to win a championship, it's going to be very hard to do with Kawhi. Honestly, the way this team is currently constructed and the way that they are aging, coming off of injuries, it's going to be hard. That window feels like it's closing. But the reason why you stick with Kawhi, because if you want to do it without him, it gets so much harder, because there are no Kawhis out there for you to grab. Like, no one is just floating around. These players are impossible to find and get. You are in LA, a place that players might want to come, that you could use that to recruit, but you have to find these players, and you're not going to find them in the draft time and time again. That doesn't seem to pan out. Like, you can get guys at the top of the draft, maybe. It's so rare that you find these guys in the draft. Maybe you can trade for a guy, but I don't see that opportunity there. So it's kind of like you already made this decision. When you traded everybody to get Paul George there, you decided that this was your window. The next, or from there, it was like 3 to 5 years. That was your window. You're still in it. You're all in on it. It's too late to back out now, even though Kawhi seems like, while he's an easy player to play with on the floor, it seems like he's a tough player to have in your organization. I think you could, I think that's a polite way to say that what happened last year was uncomfortable for a lot of people in LA.
Well, Dominique, here's the point that I have to disagree with you on. Just because Kawhi Leonard wasn't open to the public about everything that was going on with his situation, that don't mean that the Clippers didn't know what was going on. You don't think Ty Lue knew what was going on with Kawhi the whole time? Everybody knew internally. They just didn't release the information to the public. Kawhi Leonard has been in communication with the Clippers like no other this year. We have seen multiple reports about Kawhi being more vocal than usual. Him and Coach Ty Lue has a tremendous relationship, along with Steve Ballmer. Everything already was known inside the organization. They just did a hell of a job not leaking it out to the media.
Well, maybe that's it. Because these sorts of stories get out. We didn't know whether he was going to play or not in the playoffs. Like, if it was a torn ACL, it was a torn ACL. You're out. So you go back to San Antonio. Maybe that was an aberration where he was kind of secretive about what was going on there. This felt to me a bit like a repeat of that. And if it happened before, then it happened again. We got a trend. And so you're telling me that it's entirely different, that everyone who needed to know what was going on in that organization needed to know, because it wasn't getting out, which is a good thing if they can keep it quiet. But it felt to me like nobody really knew.
Well, this is the thing that you have to realize, Dominique, right? When you're in the heat of the battle in the playoff series, you want to keep the opponent guessing. You don't want the opponent to know if Kawhi is coming back. You want to put out reports that saying, hey, Kawhi may play game 6, even though you're knowing that he's not, because you want to play those type of mind games when you're trying to compete for a championship. You never want to show your hand. You never just want to say, we're going to question Kawhi to be out for the series or be out for the playoffs, because you want that team to always be on their toes. You want to strike them so they could at least expect whether or not what your game plan is going to be. So that was a great strategic plan by the Clippers front office and Ty Lue, in my opinion.
All right, fellas, let's move on. Since we're on the topic of keeping players around, the Sixers are still trying to figure out what exactly they're going to do with Ben Simmons. They are still shopping the young star around. No requests have been made. They are expected to continue talking through the free agency period. But Brian Windhorst has a bit of insight into the situation in Philly. Take a listen.
on one hand, they're absolutely having trade talks involving him. You know, he is not untouchable in any regard. On the other, the packages that they are asking for him are being deemed so preposterous by the teams in talking with him that they feel like they're not really seriously wanting to trade him.
All right, Perk, I'm going to start with you on this one. We saw Ben Simmons in the playoffs. Do you think that the Sixers are asking too much for Ben Simmons?
Well, here's the thing. We do have to realize, okay, Ben Simmons had one bad playoff run, but he did finish second in the Defensive Player of the Year voting. He is a guy that has shown us time and time again that he's capable of going out there and giving you 20.7 rebounds and 7 assists when he's at his best. He lost his confidence. But no, the Sixers are not asking for too much because for the simple fact, Ben Simmons have yet to reach his prime. And in the right situation, they know if he goes to another team, we could see the Ben Simmons of old. Like Dominique said, we can't be prisoners of the moment. Right. And I'm here to tell you right now, if the Sixers don't get back what they want for Ben Simmons, they probably won't trade him. I'm telling you, if they don't get back a package or a player that they think that compensates, or a player that's at an MVP type level or all NBA type player for Ben Simmons, along with some picks, then they're probably going to keep Ben Simmons. So let the world know this today too, that they're not just going to give Ben Simmons away, and that if they don't get a package, we could possibly see Ben Simmons in the Philadelphia 76ers jersey of the start of next season.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with everything you said, except for the point, I think they're asking for too much. I think that what they're asking for is probably fair for what Ben Simmons' true value is. But that's not what the market bears for him at this moment. And your point about him coming back, I don't think it's fair. He can't come back at this point. Joel Embiid essentially threw him under the bus in a post-game press conference. He is openly his agent at least, has openly suggested that he is okay with the trade. Doc Rivers seems like he wants to move on from him. Daryl Morey is out here openly shopping trades. Like, it's going to be real hard to bring any player, any star player back into a locker room in that situation. Then we put on top of it, it's a player like Ben Simmons. And I'm not going to pretend like I know his mental makeup, but we saw him in the playoffs. And what we cannot say is that in the face of some of these particular challenges, did he stand up and push through and ignore the outside noise? Like, he kind of crumbled in that moment. Like, we kind of all saw it. And that doesn't mean that that's who he is forever, but it's hard for me to imagine that just a season later, we're going to put him in a worse situation, a situation with more scrutiny, a situation where it's clear that no one in the locker room really wants you there and you don't want to be there. And somehow he's going to make his value go up. So I'm with you. He can go back to the other Ben Simmons, or he can potentially even become a better Ben Simmons elsewhere. And he is worth so many draft picks and star players. You're right about all that. But that's not what the market is bearing for him right now, because right now his stock is much lower than that. It's not a whole lot lower, because I think GMs around the league and teams around the league are smart enough to see what you and I see, that if you build around him, because right now this team is built around Joel Embiid, and he's not someone who has found a way to fit in yet. If you do that, yes, he can be great. But right now, that's not what people are paying. And if you had the true opportunity, like if you were right, the alternative here is you can keep him. If that was a legitimate alternative, then maybe I'm fine with Daryl Morey, like arguing or negotiating from such a high point. But there is no legitimate alternative, because you cannot bring him back into the locker room. He's not going to play well in that situation, which means then his value just goes down. They need to train him before camp opens up. So if the price has to go down to do that, then they have to do that, because there's no good alternative that results from bringing Ben Simmons back into this situation.
Well, Dominique, listen, man, I'm trying to teach you something this morning. I'm trying to show you the light, but you're just being stubborn and stuck in your ways like old people do, and I get it, right? But look, the Philadelphia 76ers were one game away from being in the Eastern Conference Finals, okay? Ben Simmons had the worst game probably of his career. His confidence was shot. But I'm telling you something, and I'm just trying to educate you, that if Daryl Morey and the Philadelphia 76ers, and I'm going to repeat this to you, if they don't get something that they feel like that they want back in return for Ben Simmons, then they are open to keeping him. I'm telling you this.
Okay.
I'm not guessing. I'm not imagining. I'm telling you this, okay?
Okay. They can be wrong too. Like smart people can be wrong too. That would be a mistake. This is not a video game. These are real people with real emotions that actually matter. And we can pretend like it was just one bad game in one series. But we can also accept that the man caught the ball by the basket and didn't want to dunk. We can accept that the man didn't want to go through the free throw line throughout the course of that series. We can also accept that it's really hard. And maybe you are tougher than me and all that stuff. But I personally would have a hard time showing up to work with everybody in my workplace don't like me and they don't want me there. And I don't want to be there. That's asking a lot for Ben Simmons.
Dominique, nobody ever came out and said that they don't like Ben Simmons, okay? And then second of all,
that's fair.
This is a business. You are getting paid. This is a business, and you are getting paid a lot of money to do your job. You just talked to me about mental toughness. You got to have a mental toughness. Show up to work. You know how many times players done been in trade talks or some things to that nature, and the trade didn't happen, and they had to come back and show up to work and do their job? It's part of the business.
Okay, I don't disagree with any of that, but you're assuming like no matter how much money you have, that does not compensate for the fact that you may not be happy in a situation. I'm with you. The expectation is that you show up to work. There's not enough money. There's not enough professionalism that will make you get over that. Mental toughness? Yeah, that might make you pull through something like that. But again, did you just watch the playoffs?
Yeah.
Like, on the list of things that Ben Simmons has that are great, mental toughness doesn't feel like it's at the top.
And all football players want to talk about how soft basketball players are.
All right, well, here's the thing. It would be super awkward if Ben Simmons does end up back in Philly. I will agree with you on that, Nick. All right, there's plenty more where that came from. We're gonna ask Perk, point blank period, who he thinks until the NFL season opener. We get the defending champion Bucks taking on the Cowboys in Tampa Bay. Jerry Jones was asked about their Week 1 matchup, and here is what he had to say.
We're going to have a lot of prayer so that we can get the courage to show up. Let me tell you this. World champion, Tom Brady, Tampa, great atmosphere. What a better opportunity to step up there and be David against Goliath.
Oh my goodness, I love that. Jeff Saturday joins us for this conversation. Jeff, I'm going to start with you here. David, Goliath, is Jerry Jones kind of lowering expectations for his team?
Heck no, he ain't lowering it, man. Listen, Dominique and I both negotiated with Jerry. This is Jerry being Jerry. He's just trying to get everybody calmed down, right? He's trying to make his team feel good. He's easing it. He's like, man, let me take care of it. I'm going to go out here. I'm going to sell this up. It's a win-win. If they go out and play bad, he was like, I told you, Tom Brady champions. If they go out and upset Tampa Bay, all of a sudden it's, hey, league, be on alert, baby. We're here. We're back. We're in action. Dak's the man. Dak is back. He's just playing it. Listen, he is as good a salesman as anybody I've ever been around. So, listen, Tampa Bay's not going to overlook him. BA's not going to overlook him. They're going to understand this is what Jerry does. Jerry's trying to get his fan base. He's trying to get everybody to kind of go, hey, calm down. We know it's not going to be pretty. And then if something turns out a little bit better than it should, he'll sell that too. It's just Jerry being Jerry, just talking it up, man. That's Dallas at its finest.
He is a performer and an entertainer. But most of all, he is a natural marketer. That's part of the reason why the Cowboys are like America's team. And as much as we want to argue against it, we know they haven't won in forever. They are the team, and we know this being in TV. They're the team that people show up to talk about, to hate on, to cheer for, to cheer against. So Jerry Jones has continued to do that. And part of the reason, a big part of the reason, is Jerry Jones has things to say, interesting things to say that get him on shows like this. And I think, he's performing in that moment. He's trying to lower expectations for his team. He's trying to potentially like lull Tampa Bay into some false sense of security. But Tom Brady's on the other side trying not to let that happen. Didn't he go off? Him and BA, Bruce Arians, the coach, went off on his team for not finishing practice quite well enough. So they know what's happening, just like we know what's happening. They think that Jerry Jones is hoping for some sort of Super Bowl hangover, hoping for some complacency for Tampa Bay, and he is going to feed that until the opening kickoff. And then he can't feed it no more, and Tom Brady and those Bucks are going to come out there and run Dallas right out the stadium. I love Dak Prescott. Everybody knows how much I love Dak Prescott. He is very good. He may play well, but they do not stand a chance in this game. I'm sorry. Tom Brady has been through this Super Bowl thing once or twice. I think he knows how to keep his guys focused and tuned up for the first game. So yeah, Jerry's lowering expectations, but it ain't gonna work. At least not on week 1.
Yeah.
Jeff,
Listen, this is my favorite part. Nick. Is this guy? I mean, Jerry has been 8-8 for like 20 years, and everybody still tunes in. I mean, I can show you on my Twitter, but I don't even respond. But if you say anything negative about the Cowboys, you're all kinds of lit up. It'll be like 3 days later, and people still responding for some comment you said about the Cowboy. He knows how to sell. You and I both know it, man. It's just a thing of beauty.
I want to ask you, Jeff, because the Bucs team is the exact same as they were last season. So Mike McCarthy basically has had 8 months to prepare for this opener. How much of a test do you think this will be for this Cowboys team?
Oh, it's a huge test. And listen, now managing, Dak and his shoulder, I think it's real. The emphasis really has to be on McCarthy to kind of protect Dak from himself, right? Look, all the hype is going to be around week 1. We got 16 more of it, not 15 like in the past. We got 16 more of these, Dak. So we're coming off the foot injury. We need to get you back, but McCarthy really needs to pump the brakes for Dak Prescott. Understand, hey man, we need you for the long term. And Dominique just said it, I fully agree. I think they're poised to win the NFC East. That's the only goal they should have. Don't worry about Tampa. Don't worry about any of the rest of it. Let's win our division, play well, beat the Washington football team, the Giants, the Eagles, take care of our business, get a home playoff game. That should be the goal and the focus of the Dallas Cowboys. Let all the rest of it come to you. Don't worry about all the hype, because we know the Cowboys, it's a hype machine. It doesn't matter. But McCarthy's job is to balance Dak Prescott so he can get back. Don't worry about the shoulder. Don't worry about the foot. Let's get back to playing decent football, win our division, let the rest of it handle it.
The most important thing is figure out how to stop somebody. Like, that's what y'all got to do. Y'all, they can play, they can score points. Dak Prescott is going to be healthy. Offensive line is a little bit healthier. They got arguably the best receiving core in the league. Zeke got abs again, so maybe he's going to be a little bit more productive. Let's not worry about Kellen Moore in that offense. They're going to figure it out. You need to figure out who you can rely on that defensive side of the ball. Whatever position group you can put the pressure on, because that's how you build really good, consistent defense, is that you can count on your D-line. If you can count on your D-line, then you can do other things to compensate elsewhere. If it's your linebackers, which I think it has to be for the Cowboys, it has to be their linebackers. They're going to have to find a way to put their linebackers in tough situations, honestly, to take pressure off of the D-line and to take pressure off of the secondary. Because the only way that you can play consistent, good defense in this league is if you have a few guys in a position group that you can trust. They need to find out who that group is in Dallas and then reconstruct their entire defense around putting them in positions where they can take the load and potentially take pressure off of the rest of the group.
Yeah, and Dominique, let me say this too. When you think about Dan Quinn, the new defensive coordinator for this Dallas Cowboy team, so much of when you watch the film from last year, man, how many effort plays did we make fun of? Like, nobody on the Cowboy defense chasing it down, nobody hustling, nobody playing hard, whether it was Mike, whatever it was, Mike McCarthy, somebody has to take responsibility. One thing about Dan Quinn I will say is, he is a driver, and everywhere he's been, he will have guys hustle and play. I think that elevates the Cowboys defense. I think if they get a medium performance out of the defense, that is a huge win, and I think they go to the playoffs. They got to be a top 15, top 18 defense. I think they go to the playoffs. They've been in the bottom, 28 last year. They got to just move up. I think Dan Quinn can do that. I think that's the excitement in Dallas.
Well, we'll see how much Dan Quinn has been able to turn that defense around. Thanks so much, Jeff. When we return, we're talking a little AFC North. Is this the year the Browns take the division, or might Lamar Jackson and the Ravens have something to say about that? Plus, LeBron James, he'll be the league, to which he responded, I do not care about being the face of the NBA. KD or Harden can be. I want to be with my kids and my family. I want to win and enjoy the game. I want to be Giannis, the hard worker. Big Perk back in here with us. So Giannis doesn't care about being the face of the league. Who would you say is the current face of the NBA?
It's the guy that don't care about being the face of the league, and that's Giannis, right? He is the people's champ. He is the people's champ. Like, how can you not like Giannis? After listening to his post-game interviews and his interviews and how he's acting after he won the championship, he represents the NBA to the finest, right? He's very marketable. People love him. And by the way, he's pretty damn good at the game of basketball, and he hasn't even hit his prime. This is a guy that's going to get you 30 and 12 a night in his sleep. Right now, Giannis is the only guy, in my opinion, that you could actually go start a franchise with right now. You take Giannis, and he's going to get you 50-plus wins every season in the regular season right now for your franchise and have you in the place to contend for a title. We're talking about a guy who goes out there night in and night out, plays both ends of the floor, that's in great shape, takes great care of their body. Giannis is the face of the NBA.
So, whoa. I mean,
that's a lot.
Thank you, Christine.
That is
Thank
a lot.
you.
Me and Nick are in the studio looking at each other like, what is Perk?
He's the only one in the league that you can drop on any team and he gonna get you 50 wins. No Kevin Durant, no, I'm sorry, Christine.
I'm going to take it back a little bit. Take it back a little bit, like a month or so ago, right?
Oh, what happened a month or so ago?
About a month or so ago. And like I said, Perk, you know I love you, so I would never want to make you look bad in any way. But we worked on plenty of shows together, and you have said that Giannis is not Batman. He is Robin. So, Robin, then, is that your face of the league?
Man.
No, but Christine, if you follow me close enough, once Giannis won the championship and Giannis delivered in great fashion, did you see me issue out a public apology to Giannis?
Yeah.
Did you miss that?
Did
you miss it? Because I did. Okay, because I did it. Because I did it. And look, listen, go ahead. Listen, this is what I'm trying to tell you. When you look at Giannis' team, right, and you look at a guy like Chris Middleton, and you look at a guy like Drew Holiday, yes, they are all-star caliber players, but they're not superstars, right? They're not a guy like Anthony Davis. It's not a guy like James Harden or Kyrie Irving, right? So when you look at Giannis and you look at the load that he has to carry night in and night out, even before they got Drew Holiday, Giannis is a guy that is he got the durability. He's going to be there every night. He's not going to do load management. You could count on him to be there, and you could count on him to play every single game, every single possession, every single night. And on top of that, he's humble, and he has that great character. This is the perfect face for the NBA.
I think you made a great argument for why we should want Giannis to be the face of the league. But we don't get to decide that. We don't get to just name a face of the league. It's just kind of something that happens. It's about the name that you think of or the face that you think of when you say the NBA. If you go out on the street and find a common fan and you're like, hey, it's the NBA, name somebody. They're going to say LeBron James. Like, LeBron James is still the face of the league. He's the most marketable guy in the league. He's the guy that all of our stories are centered around. He's the guy that that Giannis is being compared to. Like, LeBron is the face of the league. And all the things you said about Giannis are true, except for that craziness about dropping him on any roster and he's going to get 50 wins. Everything else you said was true, and I'm on board with that. And Giannis may grow into the face of the league. But the reason why Christine made that point at the start of this about Robin is because being the face of the league is about growing in consistency. And so we all accept that you admitted that you were wrong and you know that he is Batman now. But even if he was ever in a place just a few months ago that you would consider him Robin, then he has not had the longevity to grow into being a face of the league. Well, and I understand that LeBron may be getting up in age, but it sure don't look like it, the way that he contributes and the way that we talk about it.
Well, it's a shame that I have to come on here and break down to both you and Christine, highly intelligent people of the basketball world and the sports analyst world, on why I was saying a Batman and Robin comparison between him and Chris Middleton. It's because before the finals, I was going back to Chris Middleton as being the closer when it mattered the most. Chris Middleton was the guy that was taking over the 4 quarters. He was looking like the Batman. But when Giannis took over the finals, obviously you got to give respect. You got to give respect when respect is due because he dominated in great fashion. But when we talk about LeBron, listen, when we talk about LeBron James, and I know I look older, whatever the case may be, me and Bron came in the NBA at the same time. We was in the McDonald's All-American game at the same time. LeBron James is going on almost 2 decades of being in the NBA. LeBron James don't give a damn about being the face of the NBA. You need somebody else. This is why Russell Westbrook is going to the Lakers. You know why? Because LeBron knows, and it's okay. He's getting up in age. He's going into his 19th season. He don't want to be having to carry the load so much and being the primary ball handler. This is why the Lakers acquired a Russell Westbrook, to come and take that pressure off of him. We're not saying that LeBron James is not going to go out there and average 20 points a night and maybe 6 assists along with 7 rebounds. He's just that talented. But when you talk about a guy, Giannis Antetokounmpo, that's only 26 years of age, Dominique, and has a resume longer than the holiday weekend, it's mind-boggling. We're talking about a back-to-back 2-time MVP.
I'm with you. The point I'm making is I would love for Giannis to be the face of the league, but we don't get to decide that. LeBron James is the face of the league. It's like when you go to the movies. There is a guy or a woman that is the star. It's not up to anybody else. We don't get to decide who's the best actor in it. We don't get to decide why people go buy their tickets. People go buy their tickets, or theoretically, people watch basketball or care about basketball. They think about LeBron James. That's the point I'm making. I'm with you. The league should get behind marketing Giannis, but that takes time. They've been marketing LeBron since before LeBron was in the NBA, and he's been delivering every year that he was in the NBA. So he is still the face of the league until Giannis puts together several years like this, wins a few finals. Like, that's kind of when you become the face of the league. You win a few finals. That's what happens. And you're finals MVP, then you become the face of the league.
Dominique, that is so not true. That is so not true. And look, you preaching to the choir. I was with LeBron through this whole journey. Again, we played AAU basketball together. We came into the league together. Dominique, what else do Giannis has won back-to-back MVPs, an MVP and a Defensive Player of the Year in the same year. He's had the best record,
you gotta be
close to the best record.
You got to be the best player in the league for several years in a row, and win titles. Like, who was the face of the league before LeBron? Who's the face of the league before them? That's somebody who's won multiple titles.
That's not the case, Dominique. When it comes down, listen. Right now, who just won the championship, Dominique?
Giannis.
Who won the championship this year?
Okay,
who won the finals MVP?
The finals MVP is the face of the league.
That's the rule
that we're going by. So we'll just for that.
No, that's Dominique rule. That's Dominique rule.
Okay. All right. We'll talk about that later. Coming up next, Mahomes, Kelsey, Tyreek, and the Chiefs are as unstoppable as an NFL offense gets. But is one of our guys actually picking an AFC team that can give them a run for their money? Plus, we've got the latest on the injuries suffered by Colts quarterback Carson Wentz. Continuing our Camp Take series today, taking a look at the AFC North, looking at the odds from Caesars Sportsbook. Baltimore is a slight favorite over the Browns, and the defending division champion Steelers are third. We now have Dan Orlovsky joining us. And Dan, I know there's a lot going on. You were doing your makeup in the car. There was a story there. But you said you wanted to say something. What's going on?
Yeah, so this is a great story. I'm on my way. I live in Connecticut, so I'm on my way up. And like, yo, you got to be. I'm not supposed to be here till like noon Sports Center. Like, we need you first take for like 11:10. I'm like, fine. So I had to drop my sons off at lax practice. So I'm on the way up, and I'm like, dude, this is going to be close. I'm going to make it about 11:10. So I'm in my rearview mirror at a red light, like putting on makeup. I got some sunburn and whatnot. Putting on makeup, and all of a sudden I look to my left, and there's like a group of 4 high school girls staring at me as this dude is putting on makeup. And I'm just looking at him like, this is embarrassing. And I put on makeup. And then my second thing is, just for clarifications, guys, am I Max and Dom? Are you Stephen A today? Is that how we're doing this? Or?
No. I'm Max and Stephen A.
You're gonna do both of them.
Yeah.
He's everybody.
Yeah,
you gotta be analytical and hemispherical and grammatical and euphorical.
You're making up words now. Okay,
just big words
you can
by
put
Stephen
cool on the
A.
end.
So,
those aren't big words. Those are invented words.
All right, let's get back to the conversation at hand. As I said, Baltimore is a slight favorite over the Browns, and the defending division Steelers are third. Who is your favorite to win the AFC North, Dan?
The favorite will be the Baltimore Ravens. I believe the Cleveland Browns will win that division. I think if you just look at the roster, talent-wise, that roster is absolutely loaded. And the biggest reason why is going to be they're taking their weakness of last year, which is their secondary, making it to a strength. I think the most important person on the football team is Odell Beckham Jr. If Odell can, one, come back and be healthy, and two, then seamlessly fit into that offense, this offense is going to be as good as the Kansas City Chiefs, who should have the best offense in football. And now that's not an easy transition for him to kind of seamlessly fit in. How great this offense was, or as great as it was last year, the one thing that it was lacking was the ability to have big plays in the pass game. The 25-yard and more chunks, and Dom knows this. If you get like 3 of those a game, those 25-yard passes or more, you're going to win a lot of football games because of what it does to flip a field and points and whatnot. They were like 23rd in the NFL last year in those 25-yard or more passes. That was tied for New England. Now, everyone thinks New England last year, that pass game was bad. And so that's the big thing that Odell could have as an impact for this football team. But the secondary was such a weakness last year for Cleveland. And I know there's questions like Greg Newsome from Northwestern, their first-round pick. He's got to step in and play really well. Greedy Williams has got to stay healthy or get healthy. Denzel Ward's got to stay healthy. John Johnson, their free agent from the Rams, has got to come over and get everybody together. Troy Hill, their nickelback. Grant Delpit, their pick in I think the second or third round from last year's, got to get healthy. But if those guys are healthy and get together with cohesion, that defense in Cleveland is going to match that offense in Cleveland, and that becomes one of the best teams in the league. And I believe that's going to happen. That's why I think the Browns win that division.
There's so many ifs. So you said a lot there, and I appreciate that you laid all of that stuff out there because you're right. Their problem was big threats in the passing game, and you don't have to hit 3 a game, but if you hit a few every other week, like that makes your whole life a lot easier because the defense is then concerned about that. And you're right about all those things. If Odell can come in and be that, this offense gets a lot better. I'm going to stop short of saying that they're going to be the Chiefs because there's one major difference at the quarterback position. You said that they're going to be as good as the Chiefs. Let's chill out on that foolishness, but they're going to be very good. But the problem is why I'm going to stick with the Ravens winning is because there aren't as many ifs. The only if is like, if they can be the same team or close to the same team that they have been since Lamar Jackson took over midway through the season for Joe Flacco a few years ago. Like, if they can come back and be close to what they've been last year and the year before, then I will stick with them. We don't need people to step up on their defense. We don't need to figure out if their secondary can live up to the hype because their secondary has been living up to the hype. So I'm with you. If the Browns secondary can play to their potential, they can win this division. But I don't have to say if about the Ravens. I don't have to say if about the Ravens at quarterback. I don't have to say if about the Ravens on their defense. I don't have to say if about that running attack. Like, the Ravens are the team in that division until proven otherwise, as far as I'm concerned. Go ahead, Dan.
No. There's definitely ifs about the Baltimore Ravens. Like, if Rashad Bateman steps in and plays like a true one in the pass game, like Justin Jefferson did with Minnesota. Like, that's the real thing. Like, they need him to come be the guy.
Can we take it one at a time? One at a time. You're right. If the question is, are they going to knock off the Chiefs? Not if the question is, can they win that division? Because they won the division last year without Rashad Bateman. Okay, next point.
But that's also because Cleveland was played multiple games without coaches. Like, because of COVID, again, that secondary is significantly better this year. So to win the division, Bateman's going to have to be a true number one. Number two, there's 2 questions on their offensive line. Ronnie Stanley's coming back, their left tackle, from significant knee injury. If he's healthy, And if they replace somebody at guard, like Ben Cleveland, they drafted out of Georgia, he's got to go step up. And then the third thing, because I'll give you two of them at a time, Don, like they do got to find some guys to replace in the pass rush game. Like, is it going to be Derek Wolfe? Is it going to be Justin Houston, who they recently signed? Like, there are some, if those guys perform well, that defense will play what it's accustomed to.
I view those ifs as smaller, and the pass rushers isn't much of a problem because they aren't a sit back and pass rush team. They're a blitz team, again, because they have a secondary that they can rely on that is incredibly deep. So I'm not as concerned about the pass rushers because they didn't generate a 4-man rush like they generate 6, 7, 8-man rushes is how they generate pressure. So, like, as long as they have able-bodied people that can understand the rules of their blitz packages, then they're going to be all right as far as rushing the passer as long as the cornerbacks can stand up. And that's to the original point you made about Odell Beckham. If Odell Beckham is someone who they can't leave Marlon Humphreys on for the course of the game in man coverage, which is what they did for much of the time when they played him, if Odell and Baker grow to a point together, and it, frankly, it's more on Baker than it is on Odell, if they grow to a point together where Humphreys cannot lock up Odell for the course of an entire game, then we're talking about something. But until then, I'm not worried about that defense, and I'm certainly not worried about the offense because, well, as long as Lamar Jackson is healthy and he bounces back from this bout of COVID the same way he bounced back from the first one.
I'll make 1 point on each quarterback that'll go a long way to determining who wins the division. If Baker Mayfield can be as good when the run game isn't as impactful play action wise, when he has to drop back as he is in the play action game, in comparison to if Lamar can really start to threaten people down the field and outside with the football in comparison to just down the middle of the field, whoever does that better obviously has a huge chance and opportunity to win the division.
A lot of ifs being thrown around there. What do they say? If was a fifth, we'd all be drunk. I feel like if somebody was playing a drip. Yeah, it is 11 a.m. All right. Thanks so much, Dan. Your makeup looks really good. Tomorrow, ESPN's Adam Schefter. Schefter said today on Get Up that Wentz could decide today between whether to have foot surgery or to try to recover without surgery. This isn't the first time Wentz has had to deal with injuries. He's had several issues, even going back to his college days. Most notable, the torn ACL in 2017 that caused him to miss the Eagles' run to a Super Bowl title. We got Dan Orlovsky and his wonderful makeup back with us. Dan, do you believe that Carson Wentz will be able to bounce back in Indy?
I absolutely do. 2 words, competency and confidence. First of all, I think this injury, it might be similar to what Patrick Mahomes had last year with that turf toe, sesamoid bone injury that, like, you could potentially play through it. Patrick had off-season surgery and whatnot, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. The competency is tied to the organization. I think Chris Ballard, their general manager, is a fantastic general manager that's put a really good, competent roster around him, and then the confidence that the coaches are going to instill in him. I always say this with players, and Dom has probably heard this analogy. When you're a player and you're dealing with coaches that aren't good coaches, that you just don't understand the things that they're saying or trying to teach you, it's like not being able to see, right? You're like, I can't see clearly, and you need to put glasses on. And then when you get with good coaches, it's like having glasses on. Like, oh, I can see a lot better, but every day you got to put your glasses on. You got to clean your contacts, you got to put your glasses on, all that stuff. So it's still a little bit of work. Frank Reich is like having LASIK surgery for Carson Wentz. Like, you wake up and you go. You understand why he's calling certain plays and when he's calling him, what he's looking for, and the preparation of the certain situational things. And that's the analogy. It's like going from needing glasses, wearing glasses, to having LASIK surgery and being like 2020 or 2010. Perfect vision with that coaching. And I think that coaching is going to breed a ton of confidence into Carson Wentz. I'd also say that this year's 2021 Indianapolis Colts roster is a lot like the 2017 Philadelphia Eagles one. There is no star on this roster offensively, nor was there in 2017 when he was the runaway MVP. It was built upon the offensive line in 17. They've got a great offensive line in Indy this year. They didn't have a 1,000-yard receiver in 2017. They're not going to have one this year. They had like 3 that went over 800 in Philly. They didn't have a 1,000-yard back in Philly in 2017. They had 4 dudes go over 400. Now, while Jonathan Taylor is a really good back, Mack and Hines in Indy are as well. So I think it's like baseball. You know, Carson Wentz last year went up there all the time at the plate, Dom, like, okay, I got to hit a home run. Because I didn't have anybody on base around me. He's going to have the ability to have so many good hitters around him. He just needs to have the mindset of, I could hit singles, just put the bat on the ball, make good swings. And I think that's a huge reason why he's going to have a big bounce back season, given he stays healthy.
But I mean, I think that your analysis comes from partially a place of desire. Like, you want him to have this
Sure.
bounce back.
Yeah,
and
sure.
I would love for him to have this bounce back too. It'd be a great story. But I think if you look at this situation a little bit more honestly, I think it's hard to build a story around Carson Wentz that involves it being him that is special. And also, we started this, Christine went down went down a list of the many injuries, and that's also a red flag to have this pop up again. And yeah, it's similar to what Patrick Mahomes had. But he's not Patrick Mahomes. We all know that. Right. And he's in a new situation. We accept that. And he's also someone who's gotten injured a lot. You can blame it on the holes in the offensive line. You can blame it on his decision-making, holding on to the ball, or trying to run through the goal line, run through the Rams defense at the goal line in that play, or towards the end of his MVP caliber season. Like, maybe you can blame it on all those things. But you can't change the decision-making part of it. Yes, you can give him a better offensive line, but you can't suddenly make him a better decision-maker. And I guess you would argue that maybe Frank Reich is the guy that's going to step in and bring him back to what he once was. But the problem is the aberration in Carson Wentz's resume was that great season. Like, I hate it as much. Well, I don't hate it as much as you hate it because you love him. I don't know him. I appreciate him as a good football player or decent football player. But if we're honest about it, the aberration was that season. What we saw more consistently out of Carson Wentz is him making poor decisions, him getting hit a lot, him coming up short when they expected more out of him. And you and I are smart enough to know that you can't just put it all on one player. I'm not saying that it's all his fault. It was a bad situation, but he experienced that situation, and it didn't seem like he grew from that situation. He turned to he became a player who was trying to force his way out to get somewhere else. He did not become a player that was going to make everything work for him. So he is in a new spot. And I'm hopeful, like you, that maybe he will get it together, but I'm not betting on it. It's not likely. Again, the aberration was the great season. That was not what he was consistently.
Okay, first of all, because I've been on television with you respectfully, and you've talked about last year how bad he was. So if you're going to point out that 17 was an aberration, then you've got to be fair and say that last year was an aberration. I don't even know if I'm saying that word correctly, by the way.
Oh, you're doing it.
That you got okay, so you got to point that out to be fair. Number two, you can't talk about Carson Wentz having a track history of poor decision making. I think he's the only quarterback, or maybe one of two, including Drew Brees, that has had 3 straight seasons when he's had 21 or more touchdowns and 7 or less interceptions. Like, that speaks directly to a guy that is a good decision maker. If we're going to attach it to the decision at the goal line to go dive, listen, we see that all the time with the health.
You're right. That's a good stat to bring up. You're right. I'm pointing to just in general throughout last season, where it's like we can point to a lot of those things. We can point, if it was just that goal line thing, that's fine. But last year, I could bring up plenty of tape of him rolling to the right and throwing swing passes against the Washington football team. That was a bad decision. Of him not being comfortable with throwing away the ball and giving up on the down. That's a bad. That's the decision making that leads to injury.
I think we both agree. I think we both agree that last year was bad. And if you're going to say, well, 17 was the high and last year was the low, like you made the comment, he didn't show up when they needed him the most. Like 2019 is a direct contrast to that comment, Dom. Like, we watched 2019 and we watched what he did with that. So that, like, we can't pretend. That's my thing with the whole Carson Wentz conversation, because everyone thinks, like, oh, you're Carson. Everyone just points to the things that haven't gone well, and they pretend like the things that he's done well don't happen. Like 17 didn't happen, or the start of 18 didn't happen, or the end of 19 didn't happen, because those were shining light moments for him. And everyone points to, well, he got hurt, or last year was really bad. Like, there's got to be a middle ground. My thing is this. In the NFL, you can't coach talent. Talent-wise, physical talent-wise, he's one of the top 8 at the position. If he's healthy is a fair thing. I'm going to bank and hope that he stays healthy. With his potential health and that system and roster in Indy, he is an MVP type of player at quarterback. There's no debating that. If your guy was there, I'd say the same thing. If Dak was playing in Indy, I'd say the same thing, because the team is very, very good.
Yeah, I mean, Dak's not my guy necessarily, but I think what happened. Okay, you're right. I love Dak. He's very good. You got me. If you're willing to accept Wentz as your guy, I'll be happy to accept Dak as my guy. But I think you're right. I agree with you that if Carson Wentz can be a competent starter in this league, which we believe that he can be, it has to happen in Indy right now. There will not be a better situation for him. even this particular team, the situation will deteriorate as they try to continue to build around him. But the problem is, I'm not sure that he's going to be healthy enough. And we remember last year, like Carson Wentz, and maybe a lot of players go through challenges mentally with their confidence and those sorts of things. We don't find out about most of them. Carson Wentz had the unfortunate situation that we all kind of found out about it. So that's a question hanging over him right now. We all wanted him when they drafted a quarterback in the second round. We wanted him to step up and fight. What he did was he asked to get out. And that may not be a strike against him. As he didn't force his way out. Like
he asked to get out. Right? He did. We have seen a lot of players do the same thing over last year.
I'm not judging it. I'm just saying that these are things that exist. So it's going to be very difficult for Carson Wentz to shake any of this if he's going to be hobbled and if he does not dominate in this very first season. So they're all in on Carson Wentz. He needs the ball out. I don't know if MVP caliber is in him because, to be honest with you, he shouldn't put up the numbers to be MVP caliber. They should not ask him for that. Like they should ask him to make just as many plays as they asked Phillip Rivers last year, maybe a little bit more, which is not MVP stuff. Just get us to the playoffs. We need you on third down every now and then. Do that. The problem is he expects so much more of himself than I think that he's capable of delivering regularly. Like you can't be that guy all the time. You can be that guy on occasion, and he wants to be it all the time.
All right, Dan, stick around. He seems like he's a long way from winning a Lombardi trophy. So next on First Take, is it harder to back our man Big Perk to the show? Pretty solid showing from KD in Tokyo. Are you confident that Team USA is going to be able to get by Spain on Tuesday?
Yeah, you talking about Marc Gasol and Paul Gasol and Ricky Rubio? Absolutely. Didn't they get by them when they was just down there in Las Vegas? And look, right now the Team USA has found their identity. And you know what their identity is? It's playing freely and going out there and hooping, not playing the San Antonio Spurs system and letting Greg Popovich control things. We saw Kevin Durant and Jason Tatum be Kevin Durant and Jason Tatum. And that's going out there and getting buckets, not running sets, letting those guys go out there and do what they do. Put the damn ball in the basket. So, yes, I feel very confident that the Team USA is going to walk into the game on Tuesday and put the Spain across their lap, especially the Gasol brothers and old school Paul Gasol and Marc Gasol, put them over their lap and give them a spanking. I'm very confident in them.
Yeah, I'm glad that you agree. Yeah, I'm confident in them too. Ricky Rubio, I think, is their leading scorer, and they just came off a loss to Slovenia. We're not looking at some sort of international juggernaut. I know Spain has history in basketball, but a lot of that history, frankly, the recent history is tied up in the Gasol brothers, who I think are past their prime. So we got 5 or 6 guys that should not be able to be stopped. And you're right, I'm not going to get into the schematics of the system, but it's hard to teach a lot of people complicated schemes, and you don't need to. Like, we think back to when we were playing youth sports. You got the best player, give him the ball, get out the way. That's essentially where we are in international basketball. As much as the rest of the world is starting to catch up, we're still a lot better. Give him the ball and get out the way. So,
Perk, you think they're going to win on Tuesday. They're the 3-time defending gold medalists. Do you think that they're going to win the gold?
I do. And it's the additions that were added there, right? Getting Devin Booker, and the most important piece, getting Drew Holiday, a guy that's going to get into you and hug you like a cheap suit. He's going to be on Ricky Rubio heels like a pair of socks and every other guard that they put in front of him. Drew Holiday is what Patrick Beverly want to be. A guy that's going to get into you, not going to give you all the extra, but is going to defend and lock you down. We saw what he did to Chris Paul for us wearing him down in the finals. We saw the dynamic change since Drew Holiday has arrived. Now you add Devin Booker, a guy that could come in and just give you straight buckets. Draymond Green, he's loving the international three-point line better than he's loving the NBA three-point line for some reason, because he's knocking down shots. Bam, he's going to find his niche for us defending the paint. But long as you have Kevin Durant, you have a sidekick in Jason Tatum, and Greg Popovich let them play freely and let them just go out there and do their thing, they're going to bring home the gold medal.
All right, hold on one second, Perk. We got to get some NFL topics in here really quick. You will be right back with us. Let's start here. Trey Lance has been impressing at 49ers camp so far. According to 49ers reporter Nick Wagoner, Lance had Been working exclusively from the pocket for the first 3 days of camp, but the team added in some design runs on Saturday. The Niners said that Lance stressed the defense in new ways. Jimmy G, however, on the other side, struggled this weekend, throwing a few interceptions in team drills. We got Dan back with us. Dan, should Trey Lance be the 49ers starting quarterback?
Until he to them that he can't do it. Because everyone always says, like, you sit the rookie and see when they're ready. You never know. It's like having a kid. No one's ready to have a kid. You just have the baby, and then you figure it out as you go, man. My wife and I had triplets, so we were like, let's do it. Christine, I'd say 2 specific reasons why. Number 1, Kyle Shanahan, their head coach and play caller, is the best run game designer in the NFL. That's without Trey Lance and the threat of quarterback. Now, we're going to take a guy that is built like a tight end that we watched at North Dakota State University run quarterback power, which is a rare play in football. We're going to take a guy that has the experience to do that and then add it to our run game. That run game is going to be freakishly good. And then my mind, Dom, goes back to 2012. I know you were playing in this time when Kyle was in Washington and they took RG3 in Washington. And I just remember playing against them. I was playing in Tampa and we were playing Washington with RG3. And the pass game stuff that was so wide open because everything was built off that run game, that zone read fake or all that stuff. And I remember being in the game and being like, yo, these dudes are wide open. Now, I'm not taking anything away from RG3. He was awesome and he hit all those throws. But guys were wide open. And I'm thinking about a quarterback that we often hear the phrase like, does he make anybody better? Putting Trey Lance on the field is going to make George Kittle, who's already arguably at worst the second best tight end in the NFL, he's going to make his job easier. Debo's job easier. Like all those receivers' jobs are going to be easier because how Trey Lance is an easy decision. You go out there, be our guy, and if you can't do it, Jimmy G, who we know we're moving on from in a year, you could come in and play.
I agree with you, and I'm not even going to bring up or readdress all the things that you said. There's another reason. Just philosophically, I believe that when you draft a quarterback, the position that you should be in is, like you said, he starts until proven otherwise. Because I don't believe in this you learn from the sideline thing. Like there's only so many things that you can learn on the sideline. You get better from playing. You get better from getting all the practice reps. And this team is Super Bowl caliber as far as talent is concerned. The only thing that could potentially hold them back is if Jimmy G can't stay healthy or Jimmy G can't perform. And we need to find out if Trey Lance can do that as soon as possible. You don't want to wait till late in the season to check in on that. And I know oftentimes people point at Patrick Mahomes as like the situation. See, he sat.
Yeah.
He didn't get better because he sat. They would have been killing fools if they would have put Patrick Mahomes out there as a rookie. Patrick Mahomes himself kind of said, well, I needed to learn how to identify the mic. You know how easy it is to learn how to identify the mic? Can you count the 3? Like,
don't
if you can count the 3.
Don't dumb us down. Don't dumb us down.
I'm just saying.
Don't
so, okay, being a quarterback is incredibly complicated in other ways. But identifying the mic, I'm just saying in general, we can teach somebody to do that within 30 seconds. And then from there, everything else that you are going to learn that's going to be beneficial is going to come from playing or taking reps with the ones. So as soon as they can get Trey Lance in there, the sooner he'll get better, the better chance they have winning a Super Bowl, and honestly, the better chance they have winning one this year and next year and going to the future. Let's go ahead and turn that page and give the ball to Trey.
Dan, before we get to that,
2 more. Go ahead, Christine.
I want to tell you that head coach Frank Wright, the Colts head coach, says that Carson Wentz will have to undergo surgery on his foot. He will be out 5 to 12 weeks. So, Dan, I want your reaction to that.
Yeah, I think it's a smart decision to go, let's do it right now. They don't play their first game for 6 weeks. Now, what the surgery is and what the injury is a huge part of this. You know, how big of a deal it is will depend on, is it going to be closer to 5 weeks or is it going to be closer to 12 weeks? It sounds like worst case scenario, he misses the first month of the season. Not ideal. This is still a good football team that does not need to go make a move at quarterback, okay? Like, you do not need to go panic and go trade for a quarterback or go figure out, like, what's your alternative plan. They have Jacob Eason, who is, I think, a 4th rounder from the University of Washington that they took last year. This is not good. I don't want to sugarcoat this. This is not good. I'm trying to find, like, positivity in it. Not good. My hope is that this is closer to the 5-week span that it's going to be needed for rehab, and he only has to miss maybe a game or 2 because they can make that up.
Okay, let's get interesting now. Like, I mean, where's Nick Foles? He needs a spot, right? Let's bring Nick Foles back around.
Don't make me say don't make me go on Marshawn Lynch and say bad words on television, Dom.
Let's go get Nick Foles. I mean, Nick Foles played well under Frank Reich, and then Carson Wentz is mentally tough enough to handle a little guy who's gonna come in and just keep the seat warm until he gets
12
back.
weeks. Why? I need a smart person to tell me like how the variance is so big. Like it could be 5 or 12 weeks.
Yeah,
what is that dependent on?
It could possibly depend on whether or not you have a quarterback who is injury prone if they're out longer.
Christine,
So
we've never even met in person. You don't have to get on my bad side already, you know?
I'm not. I just think, you know, 5 to 12, maybe he might take a little bit longer to rehab. But I do want to ask you about that because Frank Reich did decide to take a chance with Carson Wentz, who has had plenty of injuries in his career, as we talked about in the last block. So do you think this ultimately ends up falling on the head coach?
Oh, absolutely. And the general manager, they stuck their necks out for him, you know? And this isn't something like part of me goes, like, gosh, this dude can't catch a break. But there's nothing that he can do to control a situation like this. Like, this isn't something where you go, you were stupid or reckless with your play or whatnot. This is something that sounded a non-contact. He's just rolling out in practice. I don't want, like, listen, I love Carson Wentz, the player, and I hope he's awesome. But part of me is like, how does this continue to happen to this guy? Like, you definitely start to feel bad for him. But Frank Reich, you know, put his name out there. This is a big year for this organization and said, I want Carson Wentz, and I believe in Carson Wentz. And so did their general manager, Chris Ballard, who I think the world of. He also said, we have to go find a young quarterback for our future. And so both of them are very much so tied to him getting healthy and playing well.
We felt like this roster has been a quarterback away ever since Luck retired. And maybe Carson Wentz is going to be that guy, but it's not looking good right now.
Dan, I hope I'm on your good side. I told you your makeup looks really good. So
yeah, we're still cool.
I mean,
we
can be friends now, right? Thanks so much, guys, for watching First Take. We'll see you.
You were awesome, by the way.
Tomorrow.
This is your first day. First day. You crushed it for the first day.
Do it again.